PodcastOne presents the Steve Austin Show Classics.
Taz is here right now. Let's talk a little bit to the Human Supplex Machine. Taz, welcome to the show, goddammit.
Steve, let me tell you. Look, I know you're a long timer, and look, you're a big star, big time guy. You won a couple of titles in your career. I know you did pretty good in the business. You're doing pretty good with this acting shindig. But I gotta tell you the truth. You gotta get your shit together with this whole friggin' podcast. You got me running around. I got to get hard lines, ISDN lines, special headphones. This is not exactly broadcast quality, but it's the best I could do for you, bro.
I know, and then you get that little Bluetooth ear gimmick in. If there's one thing I can't stand is a motherfucker trying to talk to me on a Bluetooth head gimmick. Now, I know if you're in motion, you got to have one so you can drive safely, but shit, brother, work with me a little bit. And I'm wondering, Taz, if this is not a deeper-rooted issue. Hey, so we're talking, you're en route or you're in a parking lot doing your thing. Where are you, bro? Are you in, like Long Island or New York? Where the fuck are you?
Yeah, I'll tell you where the frig I am. We don't call it Long Island over here. We call it Strong Island, bro. That's where I am, okay?
Before we go back into the day and talk about when you started in the business, let's talk about the here and now. You're still announcing on TNA.
Yeah, yes, sir, I am. Having a blast. Having a good time, buddy, doing it. Yep.
How's that gig going, man? You guys got a pretty good show going down there in Florida. Y'all got some pretty good talent. Are you involved with any of the storylines, or are you just calling, the matches as you see them and doing your commentary thing?
I do a little bit of both, bro. I'm not part of the creative team per se, but when we have our agent meetings, I have a voice. I give an opinion about certain things, and they might bounce some stuff off me. And then at times they'll take a certain talent or two and basically take the guy under your wing type deal. So that's where I am with that. I'm kind of helping a couple of young guys out, giving some insight. It's a lot of work involved with the commentary, and you know how that works in our business with commentary. So I've been lucky and blessed to work with guys like Jim Ross and Mike Tenay, but you got to amp your game up when you're with those guys.
So, man, you're sitting there and you're laying down your commentary. You got your headphones on now. Take me through, kind of the voices or instructions that are coming through the headphones that you're wearing, because I know, sometimes in WWE it could get quite hectic. So now down in TNA, who is producing you, and what kind of 411 are they kind of dropping on you? Hey, pick this up, or hey, check this out, or what actually is the process?
The number one thing in TNA is a guy named Keith Mitchell, which I think you probably know Keith.
Absolutely.
Back in the day.
Yep.
Yeah. So Keith is the guy who gives us our count. So for those that don't know what a count is, it's basically our ins and outs, the breaks or bumpers, or like a graphic. Well, it might say, tonight on Spike TV, Bellator fight, fighter A versus fighter B. So that count will come from Keith Mitchell to Mike Tenay and I. But a lot of stuff, just like in WWE, if something's going to happen backstage and interrupt a match, they'll just crash. So we kind of get caught organically, so it doesn't sound staged.
Yeah. It seems like this show is maybe a little less scripted than WWE. Is that just me taking it that way, or is that the case?
Oh, no, bro, that's completely the case. And obviously what WWE does works for them with their success and all, but I got to say, in TNA, it's definitely a little more like it was back in the day.
Right.
Where, if you want a promo scripted, certain guys, like their stuff, scripted, written out, and the writers will do that for them. But most of the guys and gals, they kind of just get direction, get some bullet points, kind of like I did it back in the day with a promo, or kind of like, Stone Cold would have did it back in the day with a promo, where you just get a couple of bullet points of where they want to go and just, kick ass on the stick. That's kind of the way it's done.
Yeah. I dig it. Hey, man, let's go back a couple of decades, eons, back when the dinosaurs were still roaming the earth and you were a young child growing up in Strong Island. What got you hooked on the business of pro wrestling?
I needed a job. I grew up in Brooklyn, the city. So I was never like a huge fan. I would watch wrestling and, we didn't get much old school, like Florida Championship Wrestling or Georgia or NWA. All we got was WWF back then. So, as a kid from New York, I was always a fan of like Bruno Sammartino and stuff like that, because that's all we ever really saw. But I wasn't like a diehard wrestling fan. I'm not going to sit here and bullshit you. I was always a fan of it, but I never was like, I want to be a pro wrestler type guy. That just wasn't my deal. I was in college, I was playing football and all this stuff, and then I just, I wasn't going to class. I was being a knucklehead, and I needed a job, and I was bouncing at a bar, and I was doing like all odds and end jobs and construction jobs. And my father's like, yeah, he's going to get a job, or you're getting thrown out of his house, you know. So that's true. So he knew a guy that was training people to be pro wrestler, and you know, and I borrowed the money from my girlfriend back then and her brother, who's now my wife, you know, and the rest is history. So I got trained by, you know, a guy named Johnny Rods, Unpredictable Johnny Rods in Brooklyn. And it was the hardest thing I ever did, bro. I mean, you know, being short as fuck, I mean, 5'8", you know, everybody told me you're never going to make it, you're just not big enough. And the more people would tell me you're not big enough, the more pissed off I'd get. You know, and I would say, listen, I might not be tall enough, but I'm definitely big enough. You know, so, you know, that motivated me, you know. But that's how it started off. I wasn't a huge fan. I really needed a job, and I just thought that I was going to make $1 million right away. And as you know, that shit don't happen.
So then two questions. And you borrowed the money from your future wife, and what did the school cost you? How much money?
Shit, man. It was probably $2,500, which back then was a plethora of money. You know, that was like, oh my God, I couldn't even fathom. And I don't think I've paid them back yet, but we're working on that. You know?
Hey, so tell me about your martial arts background. When did you get into martial arts? What was it? Judo, karate? What was it?
Judo, bro, judo. Started, it had to be 10, 11 years old. You know, my dad was big into it in the military, and he always wanted, you know, me to really get hooked into it, and I did when I was little. There was a dojo in New York City. I used to train at a little small place. So as a young kid, I mean, 10, 11, 12 years old, I really learned the proper way to do throws and chokes and stuff and submission and whatnot. And then as I evolved into like middle school and high school, I kind of got into it more. And then once I was like a sophomore in high school, I kind of morphed out of it and really started getting into playing football. So I kind of fell out of the martial arts deal. But the instruction on playing judo really, I think, helped me gravitate to the business once I was older, because the way a pro wrestler falls, you know, bumps, is very similar to where a judo player bumps and falls. So I say judo player, for those that don't understand, I mean, judo is an Olympic sport. So it's not, you don't do judo, you play judo. So, you know, it's, that's what a lot of people don't realize, but a lot of people aren't as fucking smart as me, so that's a whole nother story. But go ahead, bro, I'm ready.
Yeah, we don't have another hour for the show for that. So how long did you train with Johnny Rods before you had your debut match?
9 months. I mean, how long did you train?
I was about 5 months, but it was only 1 day a week, and it was after the Saturday morning shows at the Sportatorium. So 5 months of training, but only 1 day a week, and I was training with about 25, 30 cats, and we only had one ring, so my time in the ring was very limited. So, I mean, by the time, you know, he called me into the office and said, hey, man, you're going to have your first match with Frogman LeBlanc. Man, I was greener than a sumbitch. And he hadn't even smartened me up yet. How long into it did Johnny Rod smarten you up?
I love you.
He still has it.
He still has it. But, you know, we're proud of the guys today, the fans online. They know more shit than us. So I remember when I should have had like 9 months, and he had a hookup in Puerto Rico, so he sent a few of us to Puerto Rico. And, you know, and they were doing a TV taping. So I fucking fly to Puerto Rico in some shithole fucking plane. I get off the plane. I get in this little beat-up minivan with 3 American guys and 2 guys from Japan, and everybody's just swelled up huge. The air conditioner's broken in the fucking minivan. It's about 7,000 degrees. They take us right to this shithole arena, and it's raining like a bastard. It's hot and humid. I go in this locker room. There's water all over the place. There's no windows. There's just giant cockroaches running around, and I love the shit out of it. And put my shit on, got in the ring, and I wrestled one of these medic number 6003 or whatever it was, and fucking won, was victorious, big win right there. I remember that night, Steve, this is no bullshit, me and a guy named, well, he's passed away now, Big Dick Dudley. Remember Big Dick Dudley from ECW? All right, so he used to wrestle as Alexander the Great. So he looked like a big, jacked up, Ric Flair meets Hulk Hogan, like that's kind of what he looked like. That's how he was dressed, like a mock-up Hogan. And him and I were like the heels they were bringing into this little territory in Puerto Rico. We started getting a bunch of heat on this baby face, a couple baby faces, I don't remember who they were. And then he said, listen, then the rest of the locker, when the baby face will run in, you guys take a powder. And we were like, all right, no problem. We walk away, and Big Dick says to me, he goes, bro, what the fuck is this powder thing? I said, no, Steve, this is shoot, right? I said, I don't know. I don't know if it means you'll punch the guy more. I don't know.
To my wrestling fans who listen to the show, take a powder means to exit the ring, leave the ring. So that's what Taz is referring to. So keep going.
Well, I wish I would have known that back then. So now these guys hit the ring, the baby faces run into the ring, and they start hitting all the bad guys. That's me and Big Dick. And all these other bad guys, they're flying out of the ring. They're doing what you just said, called powdering. And they're leaving the ring. Me and Big Dick, fuck that, bro. We're swinging down. We're fucking going toe-to-toe. He's like, take a fucking towel. And he's like, get out of the fucking ring. And I just jumped out of the ring. So to your question, we were never smartened up. We had no idea. And that's how it was. As you know, back then, there was no smartening up. You learned the hard way. You know?
So what kind of payoffs were you getting? You got in wrestling to make money. How was the money?
Man, I would wrestle every night down there. And I mean, I think maybe I made like $100, $125 for the week. And they had a house in the rainforest of Puerto Rico over there in San Juan area there, where they had us all stay in this house. And they had no windows, no screens, no air conditioning, no phone. There was no cell phones back then, as you know.
So then, so you're down there for a while, and then you come back. Is that when you hooked up with the ICCW?
Yeah, I did come back, yeah, and then I was working a lot of spot shows in the Northeast. And then after about a year and a half, Steve, then I hooked up with the Savoldis, you know, IWCCW.
Yeah.
The guy who was running the book there was a guy named Tony Rumble, another guy who passed away, the Boston Bad Boy. So he basically saw a lot in me. You know, I was doing this Tasmaniac gimmick. You know, I got into this Tasmaniac gimmick because I was, you know, shorter and stockier and dark complexion. So I had quick feet, so I was very fast. So, you know, about it was back then, the gimmicks were in, you know. So I figured I'm going to try this thing out, and no one was biting on it, none of the promoters really for the most part. And this guy, Tony Rumble, had the book for the IWCCW, and he would book me a lot. And they had a little TV promotion that was on Sports Channel back in the day in the Northeast. And I was just trying to get work with them all the time, and then eventually it morphed into that where, you know, Tony Rumble was the guy who really gave me my first break.
How was the money then?
Shit. I mean, I was getting probably, you know, $50 to $75, probably $75 a night. And then I rapidly worked my way up to card, and I was making around $100 a night. You know, after about 6 or 7 months, I was getting over. I was connecting to the audience, and, you know, I always wrestled with a chip on my shoulder. Always had a fucking rage in me, no matter what gimmick I was doing. And it kind of, you know, the people kind of felt it, and people connected, no matter if I was a heel or a good guy or a bad guy, you know, heel or babyface.
So then the IWCCW has its, you know, run. And then you end up teaming up with Joe Chetty. And then you guys head to what is then called Eastern Championship Wrestling as the Tasmaniacs.
Yeah, well, it was right before Eastern. We were doing the Tasmaniac gimmick towards the tail end of the IWCCW, and what was cool about that was we were working in, like, the old buildings that Vince's father used to run in, like Allentown, PA, and Hamburg, Pennsylvania, and all those buildings that Heyman started to run with ECW later on. But we would work the TV for the Savoldis there, and Joe was just, he never really officially trained to be a pro wrestler. He was a guy who was just a straight stud football player, was a running back for the Buffalo Bills, you know, during the scab years, and then played for the Philadelphia Eagles, and was just an insane, amazing amateur wrestler, and he did not want to really continue the business. He only lasted, honestly, about 6 months in the business, and he wanted to be a teacher, a school teacher, which he still is. He coaches football, he coaches wrestling here on Long Island at a high school, and a very big high school, and he's a health teacher, and he's very happy.
So then you teamed up with Kevin Sullivan after that?
Yeah, correct. There was some other stuff happening in between, but then we ended up going into the whole ECW thing started in Eastern Championship Wrestling, and a guy named Todd Gordon, he owned a company out of Philadelphia called Eastern Championship Wrestling. And the deal was, you know, we were doing a bunch of TVs on Saturday nights in the winter in Philadelphia and freezing our balls off and just having a damn blast. But to go back in time, I remember, if I could tell you a story, I remember Larry Sharp, obviously, right?
Oh, yeah.
New Jersey. So Larry Sharp had his little promotion there at the Monster Factory. And what happened was I was getting pretty hot on the indie area in the Northeast. So people were booking me, and I was making a little money. I was doing pretty good, and I was getting buzz on me. And Paul Heyman, you know, had called me. Now, Paul, I always know Paul. And when Paul was in WCW, while you were in WCW doing stuff with Paul, he was always trying to get me in there, and it just never worked. It just didn't work. I don't know if I wasn't big enough or what happened. And he said, listen, bro, no matter, I'm going to get a spot somewhere where I got the book, and I believed you, and I'm going to bring you in, man. I didn't really believe him, you know. So what happened was he took the book over for this ECW thing, which was getting a lot of buzz. And, you know, he had called me and said, I want you to come in and wrestle this guy named Sabu. And I said, I remember watching Sabu. The guy's unbelievable. And he goes, yeah, well, I want you to come in. I want you to put him over. I said, no problem. I said, the only thing is the night before I got to wrestle in New Jersey for Larry Sharp, and there was a little heat there with Larry and those guys, so because the one's in Philadelphia, one's in South New Jersey. I said, but I'm pre-booked on this thing, and I got to wrestle there. And I said, okay. He says, okay, no problem. He goes, you know, just protect yourself, and, you know, like meaning.
Don't get squashed.
Exactly. I don't want to say it like that, but yeah, exactly. So, you know, because back then that shit was vital, very important, as you know, and I said, no problem. And I wrestled Sabu, and it was an amazing feeling because the people that you wrestled in that ECW arena back in the day, so you know. So when you perform there, it's just a certain magic about that fucking bingo hall. And it just really, you know, wrestling this guy, you know, it was a little bit of a struggle in a good way, where there was a tension there between him and I, but in a good way, like business, you know. And I know you know what I mean because you've lived it.
Yeah.
And it just felt right. I mean, it was one of those deals where I put him over clean. In about, I don't know how long the match was, 20 minutes, whatever the fuck it was. But I got over in the process thanks to Sabu. And Paul Heyman gave me that platform and Todd Gordon. And then I came through the curtain and Paul hugged me and he said, bro, you're booked on every single show we have, every show. And the rest is history. So, you know, that was a huge moment. I'm always forever grateful to Paul and Sabu for that because I hardly knew Sabu then. So, you know, what happened was now he knew right away, Paul, that he wanted to put me with Kevin Sullivan, I guess, and I didn't know that at the time. And at that time, the veterans in the locker room were guys like Don Morocco and Jimmy Slipper and Kevin Sullivan and Abdullah the Butcher. So, you know, we had some, you know, legitimate, you know, grizzled, salty vets, you know, and we had a good group of hungry young guys that were trying to learn. So he put me with Kevin, and we tagged up, and he just had to squash guys. And next thing you know, we became the tag team champions.
But tell me about the creative genius of Kevin Sullivan, because I know he had to book in several different promotions. I've always heard how smart he was. I obviously crossed paths with him while I was in WCW. Didn't have a whole lot of conversations with him. What did you learn from this guy? Was he as bright as everybody said he was?
He was, buddy. He was real smart. I mean, and he just saw things differently. You know, he had so much experience. He would teach things from a timing perspective, from physicality in the ring, to the story of the match, you know, when to get your heat, when not, when to give him a hope slot, when to come back, just the little things that you take for granted. You know, he was big into the little nuances of the physicality of the match, and you wouldn't know if I watched him work. He just looked like a whirlwind, but he was always in control. But behind the scenes, he was tremendous. Like before, I always felt Kevin Sullivan was kind of before his time in regards to character development, which is called, you know, what we call it in our modern day. Back in the day, there was no such bullshit as character development, but a guy like Kevin, that he was ahead of his time. You know, that's what he was. He could see that in a guy, and Paul Heyman, you know, would listen to Kevin all the time because I think there was just a respect there, and Kevin really helped Paul a lot for a long time behind the scenes, and a lot of people didn't realize that, but Kevin did. He was a big part of the early success that Paul had with ECW.
Hey, dude, tell me about this pile driver you suffered in '95 because you missed a lot of action that year. What was the down low on that? It was a match of Too Cold Scorpio and Dean Malenko. Who else was in that match? Eddie Guerrero. Eddie
Guerrero was my partner. Eddie and I.
Wow.
We were in Fort Lauderdale. It was 1995, and I was shit. I just got home from my honeymoon. I was in great shape. I was training, working hard, and we did this match. We did a loop on the loop. You know, we tagged up a lot. It was me and Eddie as baby faces and against Scorp and Malenko. And, you know, we were all buddies and we all worked real well together back then. It was just a spike pile driver. It was my fault. I mean, it was during the heat, which I don't know why you give a motherfucker a spike pile driver during the heat, but he did that. So it was okay. I mean, I believe it was Scorpio who had picked me up for the pile driver. And it wasn't Scorp's fault. When he grabbed me, I just never had grip of the back of his calves, his legs, to protect myself. And Dean was in flight coming off, I think, the second rope, if I remember correctly. And it was just the timing was off. I didn't get a chance to protect myself. It was all my fault. I just took the bump bad, and and I was fucked. I just couldn't feel shit. And, you know, I know I'm preaching to the choir with that, with you, but I couldn't feel anything for, you know, several seconds. And they got me to the apron, kind of rolled a little bit to the apron, and then Eddie came in and he fucking, you know, went to town and just did what Eddie Guerrero does, and he just saved the match. And I remember laying on the apron, frustrated as a son of a bitch because I couldn't stand up, and I wanted to stand up mentally. I wasn't knocked out. I didn't have a concussion or nothing like that. I just couldn't physically stand up. I had no strength. And then the match ended or whatever, and I went to the locker room. I remember Tommy Dreamer helped me, and he's like, "You got to the hospital." Like, yeah, I'm fucked. Yeah, I was able to walk now, but not briskly. And I'm sure you had the similar situation, but you just don't have your strength. And I tore a bunch of bands, which for those that don't know what that is, it's muscles in my neck. I just ripped a bunch and had a little hairline fracture and a vertebrae there. But the main thing wasn't the bone; it was the muscle. I was out 9 months because, you know, they said if I would have completely broke the bone straight up, I probably would have healed cleaner and easier. Instead, all that muscle, you know, when I landed and took the bump, I didn't get a chance to tuck my chin. So what happened was my forehead hit the mat and the rest of my body supine back. You know what I mean? So, yeah, and it's kind of like, you know, not fun. And I'll never forget, bro, flying home from Fort Lauderdale, New York, with a big fucking halo on my, looked like a fucking robot, and on my head and shit, and, you know, just all fucked up, and the pain I was in, and coming home to my new wife, I mean, not fun. I ended up going to where the New York Islanders, where they train, their rehab place, and New York Islanders are actually, that's where I was able to rehab, and that went on for a good 7 to 9 months, and then I was able to finally get back, but it was fucking, it sucked.
You're listening to another classic episode of The Steve Austin Show, only on PodcastOne.
Hey, it's Adam Carolla from The Adam Carolla Show. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, BetOnline provides you with all the action and the ability to watch and bet on games as they happen, with the largest selection of odds on everything from football, NBA, college basketball as well. BetOnline has NHL, MMA, and championship boxing, all your betting needs in one place. Head to BetOnline today to get in on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. So have some fun. Make these games and these events and these combat sports a little more interesting with BetOnline. BetOnline. The game starts here.
So when you go through this, you get the pile driver, you know, you get knocked silly, you fly back to home with the halo on your head, you kind of decommission there for a period of time. You go through any depression?
Yeah, of course. As soon as I got home, I was already mentally, creatively coming up with my return. I mean, because I was bored. I was home, and I was getting depressed because I couldn't train. I couldn't eat right. I had no desire to even eat. And here I got this new, my wife, she, you know, just got married, so she's got to deal with my fucking miserable ass. You know, and I was just getting bitter and more bitter, and I was getting more depressed. And Paul, bless his heart, I always got paid. You know, he paid me every week. And I just built a big chip on my shoulder, Steve. And, you know, I remember talking to him, and probably when I was starting to rehab now after a fair folding, about 6 months, I'm able to work out lightly, and I'm working out with the Islanders and shit like that. I was getting hotter and hotter and fucking more and more pissed off and bitter. And I said to my phone one day, I said, Paul, let me tell you something. These fucking fans in this fucking locker room, they can all kiss my fucking ass. Because not one of these son of a bitches has sent me a card, a letter, sent the office a letter. None of the boys call me. Nobody give a fuck. Nobody gives a shit. I mean, Sculp called me when I got hurt, and so did Dean. I shouldn't say that, but I'm talking that was back when. But nobody was fucking really. Well, Paul was quiet when I went on this rant on the phone. It had to be about 2 o'clock in the morning, like on a Thursday night. And he said to me, brother, that right there is going to make you a lot of money. And I said, what are you talking about? It was that fucking rage, that promo you just cut on me. You need to bottle that And that's what you're going to do in front of these people one day soon.
But is that was that the December 19th, 1995 Holiday Hell when you came out?
Yes.
You had the new look, the new wrestling style. Was that everything that you just described in the last 3 minutes was the personification and the creation of the new Taz? A mean, pissed off, mad at the world motherfucker.
You're damn right. And that's where it came out, because it was legit, Steve. It was legit. And I think once I started rolling with that, then you came into ECW and we crossed paths, you and I. But that time was truly fucking enraged, and I hated the world. And that's when it kind of came into the whole FTW, fuck the world thing. And because that truly was my mindset. It was a lifestyle for me. I was living the gimmick, dude. I was fucking pissed. I hated everyone.
And you definitely tapped into that because, man, when you walked to the ring back in the day and you started doing your work in the ring, you had, at whatever weight you were, 20, 30, 40, you had intimidation. And you can't make that up. You either have it or you don't. And so, man, that, as you described the conversation with Paul Lee, and fuck these motherfuckers, no get well cards. So why were you stuck on wanting to be a babyface before you said, oh, yeah, this is who I am?
You know why, Steve? When I got hurt, I was a babyface. So I just assumed I would come back. Right. That's all it was. That was the only reason. I truly, believed in, as the character developed and evolved, I truly would always try to be progressive on changing the Taz character. Like the orange and black thing, I stuck with that because I wanted to be different. Back then, everybody was either wearing like red and black or like blue and black. That was the big thing. I wanted to be different. Nobody was wearing orange. Okay, I'm the orange and black. People were like, oh, you love orange. I don't give a fuck about orange. I just knew it was something that was different. It was my gimmick. And as far as making guys tap out in the ring, I'm proud to say I was.
You were the guy that started that, basically.
Yeah, I was, bro. I mean, I was the first guy to do it.
So were you wearing the black singlet before then, or this was the debut of the black singlet once you came up with this Taz character?
No, when I got hurt, I was wearing a black singlet, and I did have some orange going on, like black and orange, but it wasn't really pushed. It was just something different. But I was wearing a singlet that had like legs on, like kind of like the Steiners used to wear, that type of singlet with like legs, like an amateur wrestling singlet. And then once I kind of morphed into the true Taz Human Supplex Machine, I got rid of the whole, legs gimmick and went with like the K&H wrestling fucking style, old school shit. You know what I mean? That's when it kind of became no legs. Because I always had good quads. I always trained a lot of my legs, always.
And from a judo base. I mean, you get legs. Yeah. So check it out. Sure. How important was Joey Styles to the Taz character? Because, was it him that made up the Human Supplex Machine, or was that Paul Lee's idea? But it was Joey Styles laying it down, the Taz missions, all the submissions that you were using. How important was Joey Styles to helping define who and what you were trying to be and who you were being?
Don't take this the wrong way, and I think you'll take it as a comment. He was what Jim Ross was to you.
Right. Salt and pepper on a good steak.
That's what he was. I mean, and that's kind of what it was. Joey was vital to who I was. Now, the whole Human Supplex Machine, I love Joey, but I don't think Joey came up with that. I think that was me and Paul, if I remember correctly. The Beat Me If You Can, Survive If I Let You, that was Paul. I wanted to come up with a tagline, and Paul came up with it. And the submission and all that was kind of me. Steve, I was a guy, and I'm sure you were the same way, that I was always a thinker. I was constantly thinking how to evolve and be better. Always. I had 9 months sitting home, bro, to come up with the shit, and I'll be damned. I was, and that's what happened. I came back with all the shit in my pocket.
What submissions were you using? And check this out. When you start, you kind of started the submission trend. So what are guys, when you go to the finish room, and all of a sudden, maybe it's you, Paul Lee, and your opponent talking about the finish, and all of a sudden you're talking about tapping out. I mean, that's kind of foreign territory. So how was that received by the cats you were working with?
Some of the guys get hot. They didn't want to do it. I was always forced to be creative and try to change to get over. I had to find any little edge I could. I was always fighting from underneath, you know what I mean? So I had to think all the time, always had to think.
Hey, man, let's talk about the locker room. You mentioned that I made a brief run through ECW. You guys had already been hot and heavy for quite some time. The music, the violence, the chemistry, the energy of that show, the us against them mentality, the Philadelphia fans there at ECW feeding into us, and really catching on all over the world. But let's talk about that locker room, dude, man. When I showed up there, I said, what the fuck is going on here?
Dude, you were there in the fucking heyday. So you were right in the middle of it. Look, as you can see, first and foremost, it was a very competitive locker room. That's number one. The locker room was, it was wild. It was wild. It was like, a crazy era, and we were that little engine that could with an attitude, and
it was
wild.
Taz, it was almost like an athletic Animal House.
Absolutely.
Because, mean, there were some guys, there was a lot of testosterone, adrenaline, and guys would kind of go off in different corners. I kind of hooked in with the pit bulls, and we were over there doing our thing, and there were some great guys over there, but man, it was different, and it was like a bunch of sharks swimming around. And I enjoyed that because it was a highly competitive environment, and you were allowed to compete. You were forced to compete. Sometimes, things get a little coddled these days, but that atmosphere there, it was sink or swim. But along with there was a lot of party type aspect to that atmosphere, and certainly a lot of guys we keep talking about are no longer with us. But when you started coming out with your ring music, War Machine by Kiss. But you had the instrumental version. Who cut the instrumental version for you?
A guy named Harry Slash. He was doing a lot of the music for Paul Heyman back then. But quick funny story, I didn't really want that music at first. That was actually Shane Douglas's idea. I got to give Shane credit on that because Joey Styles wanted me to use this. It was like a hip hop guy. Well, back then it was like a rap guy. I can't remember the guy's name, but the song was called "Time for Some Action." And I'm not a big hip hop guy. I'm more of a old school rock guy. But I had to listen to a lot of different songs. And I remember what's his name? Shane Douglas was a huge Kiss fan, and he's like, dude, this is what you got to use. You got to use a Kiss song, and it was his idea to use War Machine. And anyway, that's what I used. And then,
oh man, see, I was a big Kiss fan. I even considered using War Machine as one of the beginning songs to one of my podcasts. But so I was big into that. When I started going back and doing my research, I said, "Oh shit, man, Taz is doing the War Machine." I didn't know it was Shane Douglas's idea. Hey, there was a lot of great promos being cut back in that day. And I remember going down there and watching all the guys, and Raven, Cactus. Sandman, Shane Douglas was cutting some heavy duty promos. You cut some heavy duty promos. You cut some heavy duty promos in the ring, which were straight up explicit rated. What was it like to be able to have that creative leeway, man?
Oh, it was awesome, bro. It was, as a performer, it's the greatest thing in the world. I mean, it's, there's no handcuffs, man. There's no handcuffs. And if you're an entertainer and you're real, you're going to let it, it's going to bleed out of you every night, brother. And that's what happened. And Paul Heyman, he let it bleed out every fucking night.
So you ended up, you get the call, you finally get up to WWE. So once you get to WWE, your thoughts on the promotion or how they brought you in?
The way they brought me in, I couldn't ask for anything more. I mean, coming in wrestling Kurt Angle in my hometown at Madison Square Garden was awesome. So
what ultimately led to you deciding to hang up the tights? Was it your stack of dimes? Was it the neck that forced your retirement?
Yeah. Look, to be honest, there was a lot of people when I was getting ready to come in that, let's be honest, you and I had a lot of similarities in our characters, agreed?
Yep.
Okay, so I think a lot of people, saw that in me, just not the right people. So I think a lot of fans would have loved to see a Taz that was pushed to the moon for 6 to 8 months go against a Steve Austin. That's Steve Austin, Stone Cold versus Taz, really done right back in the day would have been pretty fucking sweet. It never happened. I'm not saying that was the reason, but that type of thing where it was my neck and numbness in my arm, and creatively I knew that I was always going to be mid-card to upper mid-card, never higher. And I just, I figured, why am I killing my body here? My body hurts. I can't feel my hand a lot of times. And then I did an angle with JR, and Jerry Lawler got involved the angle, and in one of the segments on SmackDown or Raw, whatever it was, I did commentary for like a segment, and they kept me out there for more than one segment. And I was just being a douche, being a dickhead on commentary. And I guess Vince and Kevin Dunn liked it. And then, they said to me, we want to have you, work at this. And then they, out of nowhere, they flew me to England to call a live pay-per-view with JR because, King couldn't make it. And I'm like, what? I can't do this. Like, no, JR, I'll help you. No, I'm like, holy shit. And they grew me, and they told me how to be a commentator, and it just kind of evolved, and that's basically what happened. And I got the bug. Initially, I didn't want to be a commentator, but then I realized I have a longer life in my career, make a living, and that's basically what happened, the long and short of it. I mean, that's what happened.
So now, with going back and forth to Florida, you're living up there in the Northeast. Man, what do you do for fun these days? I mean, what are your hobbies? You a big football fan or what?
Yeah, bro, I'm a big football fan, college football fan. It's tough being a pro football fan. Being a fucking Jet fan is brutal. So, I live vicariously through the Seattle Seahawks, basically. But I got to be honest with you. It might sound crazy, but, like, what I do mostly, I'm watching my son evolve here as an athlete. He's a pretty good lacrosse player. When we live here on Long Island, lacrosse is kind of like what football is in Texas,
Yep.
So we live it's a hotbed area here for our sport of lacrosse in Maryland, Long Island, Philadelphia, big-time lacrosse. So, I'm watching him now as a young, as a freshman in high school, and he plays for a nationally ranked high school, and he's really evolving rapidly, and he's getting a lot of college attention on him right now for a freshman, dude. I mean, so I'm just really always on the road with him, watching him play lacrosse. I love watching him compete. I love watching him play.
Tell me, with all your years then in the business, how long did your in-ring career last?
I would say about 16 years, maybe 15, 16, 17, something like that.
Okay, so it would give or take, let's say 16 years. You had the neck injury. How's that feeling these days, and how overall is your body feeling these days? How you at? I mean, is it hard to get out of bed sometimes? Where you at?
Yeah, Rich. I'm not in the shape I need to be in. I want to drop some weight and do some more cardio and eat better and stuff, but my body hurts and my shoulders. I tore my bicep during my WWE time, and I tore my shoulder a couple of times, so that's always bothered my right arm, and my neck's always tight.
I've enjoyed talking to you, man, and you guys, if you want to follow Taz on the social media, Twitter, he is at Official Taz, and you can see the man work on Thursdays on Impact Wrestling on Spike TV. Anything else, Taz?
No, bro. Listen, Steve, I miss you. We had a lot of fun. You're always great to your fans. Congratulations to you on an amazing career and your acting shit you're doing. I love it. And all your shit you're doing is great. And I appreciate you having me on here, bro. Anytime you want to have me back on here, just let me know, brother. And I'm sure it's the best interview you ever had. But that's on a side note, okay?
We'll do it. We'll do it next time in person, and hopefully we got a good enough sound quality. But I appreciate you being on the show. I had a good time talking to you. Taz, I'll catch you down the road.
Thank you, brother.
Hi, I'm Jessie Prey.
And I'm Andy Cassette.
Welcome to Love Murder,
where we unravel the darkest tales of romance turned deadly.
Our episodes are long-form, narrative-driven, and deeply researched. Perfect for the true crime aficionados seeking stories beyond the headlines.
Like the chilling case of Blanche Taylor Moore, the so-called Black Widow who left a trail of poisoned lovers.
Or the shocking murders of Chad Shelton and Dwayne Johnson, where family ties masked a sinister plot.
Subscribe to Love Murder on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen.
I tell you what, it's always fun talking to Taz because that's a solid cat, full of shit, good dude, real deal. What you see is what you get. I appreciate Taz coming on the show. He had a damn good career. He was an intimidating son of a bitch back in the day, and the Human Supplex Machine was a hell of a damn gimmick. FTW, the orange and black, I dug it all, and he certainly made his mark. Had to ride off into the sunset a little too soon, maybe, with the neck injury. I've been there, done that myself. But, when you get to cut your teeth and get Jim Ross to help you out one-on-one and teach you the game of broadcasting, and then also to go to TNA to work with Mike Tenay, who he has such great chemistry with. I wish him all the luck in the world, safe travels. He's always been a good square cat with me, and it would have been a great match to see Taz at his hottest with Stone Cold. heated up like I was. It never did. I think I ended up having to give him a beat down one time in the ring, but that was booking. But I would have loved to work with Taz on a straight-up program, but it just never was in the cards like that. But nonetheless, a good cat and a guy that I enjoy talking with anytime I see him. Hey, I want to say thanks to PodcastOne for giving my Amazon banner a little bit of love on their homepage. They're helping a brother out this month by putting my Amazon link right on their homepage. Every time you click to Amazon through my banner, Amazon gives me a few bucks to keep the show going for you for free. Just go to PodcastOne.com and you'll see my Amazon link at the bottom of their page. It's the easiest way to support the show. Or you can take the quick route. Go to SteveAustinShow.com, click on that Amazon banner. They're still going to kick back some bucks. And speaking of bucks, before I climb back into a deer stand here this evening and see if I can shoot a couple of bucks, I thought I'd answer another question or two that you guys sent in to questions@SteveAustinShow.com. And hey, with that being said, with me mentioning that email address, questions@SteveAustinShow.com, please send me questions, suggestions for the show, comments, feedback, anything. If you got something to kick in to help me make this show better than it is, I'm down with it. I'm always open to listening to a good idea. I'm doing this show for the working man because I believe every single man and woman has got to go out there and earn their keep. So I do this show for you. I know a lot of you cats listen to this show on your way to work, while you're at work, doing whatever you do. So if you can help me make it better, let me know. Here's a question. Hey, Steve, you ever consider bringing the Steve Austin Show on the road? Sure, you could have a lot of fun in front of a live audience. That's from old Richie. Well, I'll tell you what. I am going to take the Steve Austin Show on the road, and it's going to be sometime in 2014. I've got a couple of obligations that I'm looking to get out of the way. I am currently trying to clear every single thing that I've committed to off of my plate so I can get on with doing more of the podcast stuff, more in the reality stuff, and I've just got a green light on my new reality show with CMT. And I don't know if CMT's announced that yet, but it is going to be a bust-ass show for regular, hardcore athletes to come to the Broken Skull Ranch, the toughest ranch in Texas. Hell, piss on that, the toughest ranch in the world, and prove in front of the world, prove to me that you're one tough son of a bitch. It's the Steve Austin Broken Skull Ranch Challenge. So I'm fixing to get lit up filming that, and then we'll see if Redneck Island gets another green light for season 4. Got my fingers crossed on that, but I'm going to be busy. I need to come back down to the Broken Skull Ranch as soon as I get done with doing all that because I've got to plant some grass out here, mow a bunch of shit, do some maintenance, make this place look better than it is. So I'm going to bring the show on the road. I don't know when, but it'll be sometimes in 2014. Stay tuned, because I'm looking forward to taking audio whoop-ass, a double shot on the Riazode. Hey, here's one. I was listening to you on Mark Bell's Powercast, and you said the slingshot helped you with your overhead presses. I went to a workshop with Mark Bell and picked one up. Love it, but can't figure out how you use it for an overhead press. Thanks. Hey, man, I didn't get the name on that one. Really, there's 2 or 3 different slingshots. I use the light-duty slingshot. I pull it on, up there past my elbows to my upper arms. And if you just walk underneath your bar on your power rack and, just have a lightweight on there to begin with, but because of the nature of the movement, you're not pushing straight out like you're doing a bench press. You're pushing up. But the slingshot still works. You can lean back a little bit, but that thing works just as well on a military press as it does on a bench press. Start off light, you'll dig it. And if you got the heavy-duty one, it might be a little bit different. Remember, I'm using the medium-duty one. I think I'm using the blue one. So I don't know what color you got, and I think that dictates the strength. But that is how I use the slingshot on an overhead press, and it damn sure works. It will add weight Add reps to your workout. Hey, man, let me see here. Got one here. Hey, Steve, Will from Massachusetts, big fan here. My question is, what do you do with all your merchandise, clothes, hats, etc. over the year? Like, storage locker or keep it in your house or neither? Keep up the good work. Hell yeah, from old Richie. No, Richie asked the other question. Now, you know what I do, back in the day, all the T-shirts I had, I kept up with those sumbitches for many years. And, finally I just had to start thinning them out. I started signing them, sending them to people, giving them away. There's just, I don't wear my own shirts too much out in public because it looks like I'm trying to be stone cold or trying to show out or something like that. So I try to keep it on the down low. But I've had so much stuff, just through the business that I'm in and entertainment, my swag, other guys' swag. I wear other people's stuff all the time. Sorry ass CM Punk won't send me one of his shirts. I guess he's too cheap. I wear that sumbitch to the grocery store. But I don't wear my own shit too much. I wear my Broken Skull Ranch stuff, and I'm in the process of coming out with some more Broken Skull Ranch stuff, but the goddamn artist that I've been using just way too fucking slow. So it is what it is. But, I give most of that stuff away. And I got a few mementos here and there at the ranch, but it ain't like it's it's a shrine out here. It's kind of where I come to do my thing and keep it on the down low. And, shit. I don't make a big deal out of the run I had. I had a good time doing it, and it is what it is. And you know what? With that being said, I think I'm going to take my ass in my Bronco. And, damn near everything I got's broke down, but I do have one Bronco left. I'm going to take a lap around the Broken Skull Ranch. I'm going to take a breath of fresh air. I'm going to chill out, take Hershey the Wonder Dog with me, get ready to climb into a deer stand this evening and just kind of relax and kick back. And I think, what day of the week is it? Today's Wednesday. Y'all will be listening to the show tomorrow on Thursday. I'm going to get me a Sierra Nevada Torpedo Extra IPA, put about 3 of them in my cooler, just kind of ride down the road and do my thing and just relax and unwind my brain. Hell, I woke up yesterday in a badass mood. You ever wake up, you're in one of those moods where you're just mad at a motherfucker and you ain't even seen nobody to piss you off. You're just kind of mad. And so I had one of them days yesterday, and finally I told myself, I said, hey, dude, you need to straighten the fuck up, man. I just woke up on the wrong side of bed or something, so I got that shit out of my system. I'm happier than a motherfucker right now. I'm doing what I love to do. I'm down here at the ranch. I hope this show is catching you in a good place. If you're in a bad mood like I was yesterday, or you've been in a bad mood, hey, man, pick your chin up. Life goes on. We all go through our rough spots. And if you're in a rough spot right now, I wish you all the best in the world. I do this show for the working man. Before I sign off, I want to send out a shout-out to the United States Armed Forces. Our troops are the greatest forces. Our troops are the greatest troops in all the world. And they, allow me to sit here on my ranch and do my thing. And, offer me the freedom to do that. So shout out to the working men, the working women of the United States Armed Forces, the people that protect our freedoms and our rights. I love you guys and gals. Hey, until next time, my name is Steve Austin. I'm coming to you from the Broken Skull Ranch, and I'll catch your ass down the road.
Thank you for joining us for another classic episode of The Steve Austin Show. Please leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts and tell your friends. For more Steve Austin Show, go to PodcastOne.com. That's PodcastOne.com.
Just when you thought summer couldn't get any hotter, Pluto TV is turning up the heat with thousands of free movies. Presenting Summer of Cinema. Stream your favorite blockbuster films like Gladiator.
I will have my vengeance.
Good Burger.
This is what I call fast food.
Beverly Hills Cop. The Girl with a Dragon Tattoo. And Julie and Julia.
Bon appetit.
All for free on your favorite devices. Pluto TV. Stream now. Pay never.